My name is Yemaswati, and I will be reading this evening's news with you. Let's get started with our headlining stories. His Majesty the King received the Saudi Arabian envoy. ESCOM hosted a workshop highlighting special needs education. And 2 men were involved in a nasty brawl in BULLETIN. Those are our headlining stories. Let's get started with our bulletin. But before we do, a message from WaterAid reminding Yemaswati to continue to adhere to all COVID protocol rules and guidelines set in place by the government in order to help curb the spread of COVID-19. With that, let's get into our very first story. Now, His Majesty King Yemaswati III welcomed the Saudi Arabian envoy and advisor to the royal court in Saudi Arabia earlier today. Now, the envoy and his delegation were sent to convey a special message to His Majesty and were also received by the Prime Minister shortly before leaving for Lozita Royal Palace.
How do you do, excellent? Very well. Thank you. Hey. Special envoy from South Arabia. How are you? Very nice to see you. Likewise.
Landing in the kingdom earlier this morning was a special delegation sent by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman. The delegation included the Saudi envoy and advisor to the royal court, Ahmed bin Abdulaziz Khan. The delegation were hosted by His Majesty King Yemaswati III at the Lozita Royal Palace, where private talks were held. Also at the palace was the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Tulisile Hlaja, who extended a warm welcome to our visitors. The Honorable Minister also expressed His Majesty's government's support for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The Minister also publicly condemned the recent attacks on Saudi oil depots.
On behalf of His Majesty King Yemaswati III, Her Majesty the Emperor Gazi, and the entire nation, we would like to welcome you once again to this beautiful kingdom, and that we have a special message that we come to deliver to His Majesty. Your Excellency, as a nation, we would like to assure you of our support and that we are behind Saudi Arabia in terms of Expo 2030.
Thank you.
You receive our support, our full support. And further to that, Your Excellency, once again as a country, we would like to condemn the multiple drone and missile attacks on your oil depots.
Thank you.
Your Excellency, please receive.
Special Envoy Ahmed bin Abdulaziz Khan expressed his gratitude for having met with His Majesty the King. The envoy gave brief highlights about the private discussions held with His Majesty and furthermore expressed his wish for strengthened relations between the two kingdoms.
And their wishes of prosperity to His Majesty and to the government and to the people of Eswatini. We discussed many issues, especially how to enhance our relationships in all aspects. And at the same time, I expressed my government appreciation to His Majesty and to the people, to the government of Eswatini for supporting Saudi Arabia into host Expo 2030 in Riyadh. And also I would like to thank the Minister of Foreign Affairs for what you have just said, and alhamdulillah, no life lost in that accident.
Also receiving the delegation was His Excellency the Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini, who welcomed the envoy shortly before they left for Lozita Royal Palace at Cabinet. Reporting for Channel Yemaswati News, Yemaswati with Linda Shomwe, Lozita. His Majesty also received the South Korean envoy at Lozita Royal Palace, where the visitors gave a lovely and familiar performance of song before the throne. His Majesty King Yemaswati III hosted the South Korean envoy at the Lozita Royal Palace earlier today. The South Korean delegation were thrilled to be before His Majesty, giving a performance of one of His Majesty's favorite hymns, Siyabonga Jesu, shortly after private talks were held.
Wahambanati, oh Wahambanati, oh Wahambanati, Siyabonga. Wahambanati, Wahambanati, oh Wahambanati, oh Wahambanati, Siyabonga.
The performance was well received by all in attendance and was deservedly applauded by His Majesty, who looked to be delighted by the entertaining set. Reporting for Channel Yemaswati News, Abongile Mabuza, Belinda Shongwe, Lozita Royal Palace. Dennis Mbinga, the chairman of the FNB Foundation, encouraged the coming together of men in order to promote, to discuss, and to find solutions about how to combat gender-based violence in the country. Now, the chairman expressed his views in his speech during an event whereby the FNB Foundation donated over 1 million emalangeni to organizations Swaga and Pumelela.
FNB Foundation has donated 1.1 million to Swaga and Pumelela. FNB Foundation chairman, who is Mr. Dennis Mbinga, he has encouraged men to come together and find solutions to get the escalating of gender-based violence cases against women. He further thanked the organizations and all those in the forefront in the fight against gender-based violence in the kingdom.
Kodwa namhla sihlangene ngekuthi sidawuleketana imali nakusithi imali letincane ngenzaba yokuthi sifunde kanjani ikakhulu thina esimadoda sibambisana njani nabomama ukuthi silwe nayo impilo ekhona lekhonetheliwe. Angicale ngikubonga nje kakhulu kulaba esebenzako le ongela mana thina singahlala sifunze emaphepheni and almost be academic around the approach. But kunebantu labavuka wonke lamalanga bawelalela tindzaba talabo labahlukumetiwe. Kunebantu labahamba baye nasekunemuntu make losalinye kwendodza yakhe. Kufanele bambutsa, kufanele bayoklina, kufanele kwakhiwe macala.
Mapranelo omncane ehofisini leliphini landvunankulu make ehlobisile enhlamini usileli hhovisi leliphini landvunankulu lanele akubona ukuthi ke ayanza ke emacala okuhlukubeda kwebantu lapha ke evenda kangwane laseke live laseSwatini lakha ke imithetho etawuvikela bona ke bantu labahlukubetwako lofakatho umthetho wayo ke isoto.
We have been able to finalize the guiding document for strengthening of the national gender-based violence coordination mechanism from national and regional levels. This framework was developed through a consultative process.
Umqondisi wenhlangano yakwaSwaga make noNhlanhla Dlamini uthi ke babonga kakhulu kulo leli bhange le-FNB ngokuthi ke bachase leti inhlangano ke letimbili. Uvetile ukuthi bathi inhlangano litilwa nokuhlukubeteka kwemalungelo ebantu lapha ke eveni laKangwane tiningi tinamba labadibana nato ngalokuthi ke ayanza lamacala ehlukubetwa.
Between February 9, when we lost our colleague Sharon Neves, may her soul rest in peace, we've actually had more than 6 cases of murder reported for such a small country with a population of about 1 million. We really have a serious problem. And it is for that reason that we've been all along advocating to government to declare GBV a national emergency.
This was held at House on Fire at Malkens. The report was compiled by Gary Carlos at Malkens.
Welcome back from the ad break. Let's get right back into our bulletin. But before we do, another reminder from WaterAid encouraging Yemaswati all across the country to continue to adhere to all COVID protocol, rules and guidelines set in place by the government in order to help curb the spread of COVID-19. ESWATINI, you are reminded to wash your hands, to sanitize, to practice social distancing. Let's work together to fight this virus. Now, Justice Dlamini brings us a story from BULLETIN about a friendship gone sour. Community police in the area got involved after two men were involved in a nasty bottle fight. Welcome back from the ad break.
Police of BULLETIN yesterday found two men that are said to be brothers that have stabbed each other. It is not clear as to what would have caused the conflict. These men were drunk, and the one that stabbed the other is said to have decided to run away.
Bathi kubangwana angakhona ukuthola lokho singakhona ukuthola usimaphoyisa emango abantu babathe banathile lo sibabangani ngoba laba basidela amani bakanye kanye kodwa balimala tene bona bodwa ngingathini ngoba ungathi udla ngisolo kuyachubeka lampuleni udlangile mphathi emsakathi udla kakhulu kuyasihlupha mani ngiyona into lesiphatha ngesila nina asikhona kulala mina wonke malanga kwazwa abantu gijiniswa abantu ziva zonke malanga nehlani inyuka nipatrola kusubonge siya patrola kodwa ke nani uthi sibancane sithi sipatrola ngala uvuthi ngalapha sekungenele abantu endlini ngalana sebhaswe abantu kakhulu ekusende ngabo 4 nasela emsebenzini sosikhathe sesihlupha kumpela kakhulu sesalala benyoni cha nyalo nimele ini nyalo simele imoto emaphoyisa sitosala amajayi wami eksesibhedlela cha siyabonga.
This report was compiled by Justice Dlamini at Matapa.
And over to Lobamba, where the Induna Yengundla in the area, Mbamba Dane Bembe, unveiled road and water project plans to his constituency, totaling to the amount of 4 million emalangeni.
In the course of the week, Lobamba Nkundla was able to launch different projects, such as that of the construction of a pro-base road at Mlindazwe that will lead into a construction of a resort that will in turn benefit the residents in terms of employment. The Induna Pexisa Mpambatane Pembe also confirmed that they also unveiled a water project that is worth over 2 million emalangeni, courtesy of donors from Turkey.
Yes, kushothi leziviki siphakamise umgaqo waseMlindazwe lesitawukhonga ngesikhwama DF imali enganga 2.6 million ekukhonga lo mgaqo la yophelela kwa lo mgaqo tase takhamuntu tale yamango takhana kulokuthiwa i-launch attract ama-tourists lokusho ukuthi sikukhanse umgqoka kwalo mgaqo lo sisena kusuka lapho futhi sabheka esemabombo ngasesitsheni sinebaseTurkey NGO yaseTurkey lekhona le missionaries lekhona kusisita ukuthi yakhele bantu basesitsheni ibhoholo le bhoholo itawudla abantu labang 300 ngemanti njengoba sathi kusiyiwela water stay level vile besikilo sisho kona bena sithi labantu basesitsheni bebakhe emanti endambande emfuleni nyalo sebatawathola kule bhoholo yakhiwe ngilomlungu waseTurkey singayo sokubonga nje kulabo baseTurkey le donation yale bhoholo nekubonga ne-contribution yemango ngoba nemango yendile i-contribution lenga 6,000 ibhoholo ibe worth 78,000 seyonke imali yayo lo kusho ukuthi intuthuko iyagijima iyakubantu emani sebatawathola bakhona kuwakha kule bhoholo lesidingo semandi ngasesinzaweni yasesitsheni sikhulu.
Bembe stated that there are other projects in the pipeline that of empowering the youth, such as vocational training and a skills center, where they will be able to tap into the already available funds such as the Regional Development Fund.
Kakhulu nje kuleli village sabe sihlangene Tuesday nema stakeholders ama developing committee onke sikhulumisa indaba yokuthi insha singayitransforma kanjani ibe nema skills shothi singawuthi Nkundla yithi singawuthi kube ne skill center lesitawuqasha labantu labasha bakhona kofundzela ama skills onke emakhono abe khona We are expecting ukuthi lokhu kungendiwa abantu bemango sibathatha isikhwama se-RDF bayakhe le skill center kube kwabo bayi-honorish.
Channel Yemaswati News, I'm Linda Shong with Kimberly Mavuso Lubamba.
Communications company ESCOM held a special workshop in Pixpeak today for teachers who work in special needs education. Kimberly Mavuso has our story.
Government continue with its mandate to deliver to the people. Working jointly, ministries are working together to ensure that there is sustainable delivery to the public. The Ministry of Education and the ESWATINI Communications Commission conducted a workshop for teachers to ensure that they address the issue of those who are left behind, especially for children with special needs, in issues of being marginalized in the education sector.
So lo besena i-online teaching letikolweni bokhanza ukuthi labanye babo bayasilela ngoba bakhona ukubona abakhona ukulalela la emsakatweni so sebafeyila ke bona. So ngiko ke litiko bese liqale i-inclusive education. After selithole sustainable development goal number 4 lothi asinike wonke umntwana imfundo le-equality. Singamuki ukuthi akeve indlebeni akabone emehlweni akhona ukuhamba kahle but bonke babe inclusive futhi bangafundiselwa nje kuphela eSt Joseph's la besithathe sibaya khona ku school for the deaf kodwa ababe khona atikolweni letinye so ufuna umfaka umntwana esikolweni lesinye nje.
ESCOM representative stated that it pleases them as a communications regulator to be part of this endeavor
and service, and part of that mandate talks to making sure that all Yemaswati have access to ICT services. That is one. The second one is to make sure that people with special needs and disability people now they have access. So it is in that premise that a commission comes in to say, let us facilitate this session and make sure that labantwana labakubategile nabo bayakhona kubenefita kufundiswa online.
We believe that in partnership with the Ministry of Education we'll be able to deliver something, at least start something that will change the way we view the instruction to our learners with special needs. So that's how far the university is involved.
For Channel Yemaswati News, I'm Linda Shong with Kimberly Mavuso, Pixpeak Hotel.
Well, that is all we have for you this evening. Thank you for joining us. But before we leave you, a recap of our headlining stories. His Majesty the King received the Saudi Arabian envoy. ESCOM hosted a workshop highlighting special needs education. And 2 men from Mbuleni were involved in a horrible bottle fight. Well, that's all we have for you tonight, Eswatini. Thank you for joining us. As always, keep safe and have a good one.
This weather forecast is proudly brought to you by FSRA.